Ladies and gentlemen, the T.R.O.N podcast followers and listeners, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming back. I have a very special guest today. I have an honor and privilege to talk to Mr. Caleb Matthews, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, all-around great guy from our neighbors to the north from Canada. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rashad, for having me on. I'm honored to be here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, you bring a lot of good juju and vibes, man. So won't we get a chance for you to tell us what you're all about, please?
For sure. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Run two businesses now. Just started my second one here a little recently, which is great. But I run a digital nomad hotspot out of Mexico, out of San Jose del Cabo, Mexico, the itinerary oasis. Yeah. And I've been doing that for this will be my third season going into running that business internationally. It's a business that is a 6-month primarily window between November and April when all the high season and the tourists come. But I moved from my 9-to-5 corporate job in Canada after 10 years to be an entrepreneur over, international country. And I think it's a great step.
I was looking at that and I was like, first of all, like the location it's like a dream nomad land, right? You're like, you kidding me? This guy set up this wonderful location for people to work remotely and you could plan your vacation around it while actually doing, your work. So like, what made you start thinking about that? Was it a post-COVID thought? Was it, always on your mind of doing it? How did this come to fruition?
Well, I was raised as an entrepreneur and really from a young age, starting at the age of 13, me and my two older brothers, God bless my mom, she raised 3 brothers, and my dad obviously is involved as well too, but she did the primary work of being the homeschooling mom that raised us on these entrepreneurial values. My dad too, of course. Yeah. And really from that phase, through a long series of different jobs, helping build a successful landscaping business at the age of 13, helping my mother do that, to refereeing youth soccer at a provincial level all the way up to 18, and then finally reaching the 9-to-5 world and working for 10 years in telecom. I figured that when I was 10 years in telecom, that was the primary cutoff point. I was like, okay, can I see myself working in telecom for another 10 years? It was very successful. I would be one of the top salespeople that would go on trips to Vegas, Seattle, see the hockey games, see the baseball games, win the trophies, have all the accolades. But I was really bored. I was not really fulfilling what I call my full potential, my SeeLink of my DNA of design. And that's what I speak about in my motivational speaking in my brand. The SeeLink is really seeing that link within your DNA of design. So it wasn't just a COVID thought. That definitely accelerated things, but it was, I need to get somewhere where I'm using the full suite of my gifts that I've been given.
It's almost funny. Like, it's like people use, like, for example, like Microsoft Excel, but then you don't realize that you're only using the basic version of Microsoft Excel. And then you find out, like, people give courses on it and they can create all these pivot tables and all these formulas. But to your point, if you've only tapped into a certain part of your potential, I'd like to call it autopilot. You know exactly what the lights are timed in your neighborhood. You know exactly what time the stores are open or closed. If you have kids, you pick them up, you take them to soccer practice. You know exactly what's for dinner. And then it just becomes routine and you get stale and you don't grow, right? And it happens. I mean, you read about it, but it's different when you acknowledge it. And you make a conscious effort to pivot and change. And you took the next step of saying, I'm not going to complain about this. I'm going to act on it.
That's right. Yeah, got to shift, got to act on it. It makes me think of one of my favorite stories in history. And Rashad, I know you love your history. You're a history buff like me. Yeah. History was that subject in school where it didn't feel like work. It felt like a joy. An outflowing of my design. And I think people who really love history, it's an outflow of that design, that inner wire that's been given by creator, spirit, God, whatever you name it. And history for me is a big thing. One of the most famous stories of history, I think, that anybody will ever hear about, has heard about, it comes from the Bible, but it's actually in a Amazon Prime miniseries right now called The House of David. I'm not sure if you've ever watched that before.
I haven't seen that yet, no.
Good show, but the primary is based around the confrontation between the shepherd boy David, the underdog, and the big man Goliath. Sure.
Philistine, of course.
Yeah, Philistine. Everyone's heard of this story, but what most people don't know about this story is when David finally is conscripted to fight Goliath. He says, "I'm going to fight the giant." Saul says, "Oh, you can't do this," but yes, I can do it. Finally, he gives in. Says, "All right, you're going to be my guy. You're going to fight." But what most people don't know about the story is when Saul said, "Okay, I have one final requirement for you when you go face that giant. You got to wear the king's armor. You got to do it the way that I did it.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of that pressure, Rashad, and I think you've seen this in society. Our listeners are probably very familiar with this peer pressure of having to put on somebody else's armor.
For sure.
Of having to say, oh, in order for you to be a successful entrepreneur, in order for you to be able to be a successful individual in life, you have to do it the way that Tony Robbins or Grant Cardone
Correct.
or Kim Kardashian or Taylor Swift, like
Right.
you got to do it their way. No, you can learn from people, but it's my belief you got to do you. You have to be yourself, because if I try to be Rashad 100%, I'm not going to fulfill my purpose on the earth. No different than Rashad tries to be Caleb 100%. But we got to learn from each other. So David said, I can't wear this armor. I'm going to do it my way and have my staff, my sling. And we know the story. He takes down the giant, but because he refused a peer pressure of conformity to a different armor, and he followed his own DNA to his design. And that's what I talk about within SeeLink, within my motivational speaking.
I think too that, there's an era of where, and you probably are familiar with this because you were a history buff. You seem like an avid reader as well too. Like growing up as a geek was like, now it's cool to be a geek because like everybody's like, because technology has allowed the geekdom to take place. But when it was traditional geekdom, grabbing a comic book, reading an encyclopedia, watching a documentary, everybody's got that little WTF look on your face. Like, dude, what are you doing? We're playing basketball, right? Like, you know what I mean? What are you talking about? But now it's become like, the norm to be able to think outside of the box and know these little intricate factoids and details where it's just part of the everyday conversation still to take place.
Yeah, it's an outflow of really our toolkit, and we can learn from what's around us, saying, all right, what is history speaking trying to tell me? What is my DNA of design trying to tell me? What is my whole makeup around me trying to assist me with in this wild, wacky, and creative life? Because I think if we can predict life in a straight line, then we're not really living on the edge. We gotta have that unpredictability, that unconventional unpredictability.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's almost like, it's like when you step in the pool and it's cold, and then finally when the cold gets over with, you're like, it's not so bad. But then, sometimes you just have to jump in. And, this conversation isn't about me, it's about you. So when you go on that entrepreneurial journey from 13 and you start feeling like, man, this is what it's like to do my own business. And then you step away from the corporate world. Like, what was that transitional period like when you put a deadline of your corporate career to do this?
Oh, yeah. I was like, you know what? As I've run that train as long as it can go, it's like, okay, being on the train, it's like this train is going to stop at a station. And when you feel like you just got to get off the train. Yeah. It was that feeling of, okay, I got to make a move. I got to either, okay, I'm going to commit to this for another 5-10 years because I'm an all-in guy. Like when I do something, I'm like, I'm not going to do anything half-assed or anything. It's all in. But I felt like the train had reached its climactic point. And one of the things that I did after 10 years was I actually approached my business manager, the owner of the company, and said, I have a proposal for you. I want to be able to reinvent a role within the company and kind of work remote and work in person, do a 6 and 6 kind of thing. Right. And I actually had the idea that had been vetted by different leaders in the company that were even higher up than the dealership that I worked for within the telecom industry. Mm-hmm. And they all thought that the proposal was great. But when I approached my boss, he was kind of from the old school generation of, you got to clock in, do your 40 hours a week behind the same desk, fall in line, have your number stamped on your wrist like you're like a madman. You're another number in a camp, right? As opposed to not being an individual. And he said to me, he looked at me after I proposed this idea, and he said, Caleb, online sales, remote sales do not work. And I was and I was like, okay, that was the moment after 10 years, of giving myself, of being one of those top guys, loyally giving myself, especially through the pandemic, I loyally stayed on. Yeah. And to have him say that was like, this is my breaking point. This is the final straw of, I'm not staying here just to be another number. I have a DNA of design, a unique purpose that I've been put on this earth to do. I can't stay here because, as Martin Luther said, another great history pillar, he said to go against conscience is neither right nor safe. So I followed my conscience and I moved on.
Good for you. And, I thought that, you also have an upcoming podcast where you do podcasting as well. I wasn't sure based upon the link on your website. So
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'll be doing my own thing here very shortly. Still
Yeah.
building building that experiential train of getting on as many shows here to build that rapport. But I've had some history background on the website, as you can see, of helping
Yes.
people host
Yeah.
podcasts as well.
And so what I found interesting too is you do public speaking as well too, and you help people find that I like to call it the Jerry Maguire Quan, so to speak, right? Like we've like that great quote. So what stage at people do they reach that same stage you were at, or is it post divorce? Because now you have people even at a younger age out of college, based upon circumstances that they're like, I want to do my own thing. So what stage when people come to your speaking and your services do they come? Are they at?
I would say that they're in probably, I would say, three different phases. Ones that are completely all into, okay, I'm into this journey of being remote, of working online or running my own business. Maybe it's not remote, but they're an entrepreneur. That's one category. The second category would be those that are kind of on the fence, like I was before I made that shift of they're in the 9 to 5, they're into serving somebody else's vision, but they know that there's something more, but they just need a bit of a nudge. That's the second group. And then there's a third group that are completely kind of, I would say, almost like just fast tracked in their own lane of, okay, I don't realize there's anything else out there because I haven't been shown that blueprint. So I'm just doing this because I'm just doing what I've known to do. And I'm kind of in that one track. So I would say there's 3 different places that people are in. As far as even age group, I would even say our generation. I know that your audience is primarily because just checking out over age 35 and above or 30, but I would say that our generation has changed so much where I think even around 18, 19, 20 years old, people coming out of high school are starting to ask these questions of, okay, what am I going to do with my life? Because the internet has made the world a very small place.
Yeah, right. And so, now you don't, like when you talked about, obviously, your province, your state, your city, your town, and sometimes you only know what's in front of you. Sometimes, and you can get in that mode of, I graduated from high school. I got my counselor who told me my applications for my college. I'll get my degree. And it's sort of like there's a difference. And I was talking to a great previous guest. There's this life by design and life by default. And if you don't actually map out things that you either A, want to accomplish, B, want to gear yourself towards, you're not bad for having that path followed, but it's very easy to get lulled into a sense of this is all that there is, right?
For sure. It's easy to be the frog in the pan of, okay, this is just the way that it is. I'm just going to clock in, clock out, and just accept reality versus, okay, getting outside of the fence of, okay, what could land beyond look like?
Right. And that's ultimately how the rest of the world got connected with one another, right? So, that's how places ultimately built and became the global world that it was because people decided that their shoreline wasn't the end of the earth, so to speak, right?
That's right.
So
I love it.
It's just the truth, right? And they're like, how dare you go on that ship? It's like, well, dude, like, with all due respect, I want to see what's past. There's got to be something past here, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like you're a history buff like I am, and you're probably familiar with in our audience of the great story. I did a previous lately on my website. I do like these spoken word kind of meditation exhortations, like many Denzel Washington clips is what I like to call it. Right? I love me some good Denzel motivation.
Oh, who doesn't, man? Right? Like even if AI does voiceover different things you can listen to. It's like the voice of God, right? The guy just has like that voice, right?
Yeah, him and Morgan Freeman. Those two are like those guys are my Mount Rushmore of like spoken word voiceover 100%. Stuff.
100%.
But getting into this clip, like I do a story about Harriet Tubman, like in a 7 or 8 minute clip. And Harriet Tubman was somebody I was raised on as a homeschooler of her story of on the Underground Railroad of leaving that place of I'm gonna have one of two things. She said, I'm gonna either be free or I'm going to die, but I'm going to have one or the other. I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to stay in this structure. I'm not staying in this structure. I'm not staying in this enslaved encampment. Like our audience may be thinking, okay, why Caleb be talking about Harriet Tubman like I'm not a slave like she was? Well, actually, in some ways we can be, maybe not physically, but if we allow our environment to dictate to us what we're supposed to do with our design, our DNA design, if we don't see that link between our purpose and being outside of our environment versus being confined to an environment, we will remain slaves. But she said, no, I'm going to have freedom. And so she went on the Underground Railroad and followed that path to freedom because she made a decision that she wasn't going to stay in her confinement. she turned her scars into stars. And that's the name of my title of my speaking piece, is Scars to
That's
Stars.
wonderful.
And how she used that for
That's
her
a
life.
beautiful analogy. And, it's all about personal growth. And, and let's talk about more about this location. Like, how popular has it been? Was it like people were like, oh, thank God, this was what I always wanted to look forward to? And do you anticipate growing from that one specific location?
Yes. Yeah, no, I'd say that people are like, this is the way that the world is heading towards, as far as like digital nomad hotspots where people can go and create content and have that combination between vacation and workspace, and having that is what people are looking for, those paths. I definitely do anticipate growing it in other countries, other places within
dope,
that
man.
model. Want to do that and then combine that with, then of course, the speaking is that's my main mojo. Like, I've been doing this since I was 18, actually. In Africa, the Philippines is when I started public speaking, about 20 years ago. And that's part of my background. And speaking to crowds of dozens, hundreds, thousands, even on the radio to a few million people after the 7 o'clock news in Tanzania. That's my passion. But that's why I was like, I want to start, like, after leaving the corporate world, after starting my itinerary oasis and establishing that nomad hotspot. My main thrust is the keynote speaking in person, is the online speaking, is the group
For sure.
speaking. So having that combination between, yes, growing the itinerary oasis into different locations, but also gathering around individuals like yourself and groups, casts, and people, just to really be with great minds and hearts and encourage each other on our journey to see the link between our purpose and what we're offering on the earth, our DNA of design.
Well, I think that the beauty about it is like, I've told multiple guests this, I would never have had the opportunity to talk to somebody like yourself had I not decided to take that quote unquote leap of faith. And, I always find it funny when people who get older, they get more insecure, right? As a kid, you can do the stupidest thing in the world as a kid and you wouldn't even know it was stupid, right? Like, you just do it and you try it, you fall flat on your face, you fall off the bicycle, but then you get, you don't want to be YouTubed, right? Nobody wants to be like on YouTube for doing something bad. So we get more insecure. We become doubting ourselves. Oh, I'm divorced. I got 3 kids. I gained a little weight. I'm getting gray hair. And what if people are going to feel some type of way that I'm doing a podcast? It's like, listen, dude, like, what's the worst that happens? You get told you suck after 5 episodes, you move on, right? That's really what it boils down to, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Nobody listens to it.
You just got to try.
Right.
Yeah. It's all good.
And sometimes you just have to look at it like that. And, if you can, and because you're such a history buff, and what I found fascinating is, you're this digital nomad, but like the world got connected when the transatlantic cable line got put in the Atlantic Ocean, right? And it became, and off the coast of Canada, which and then it goes off to England, and they had to connect 2 cable lines in the middle of the ocean, which is like really the birth of the internet, drop it to the bottom of the ocean, send the ships back to their respective locations, and then see if telegraphs could actually communicate from North America to Europe in real time, right?
I love it. Like this kind of stuff's just like, okay, fires me up. It's like, I think of the popcorn machine, right? Where the popcorn's just bubbling up. It's like this, all our history defines us. We can learn from history and we can apply these principles and benefit from the fruit of it, or we're doomed to repeat the negative side of history if we don't learn from our ancestors.
Right. Exactly. And so now it's like, and that's still, some of those are still in use and they're dropped across the ocean of the world. But now, because you can do digitally remote work anywhere, it's because of the birth of those people that took that calculated risk over 100 years ago. So that still lays true to today, that your digital nomad is really, like, in many ways, like the grandchild of something like that.
That's it. It's history is still speaking. History speaks. There's still that, seeing that link between history, as you said, these cable lines through the transatlantic has helped us into what we're doing today. Everything from that to obviously Steve Jobs and Apple and all the guys that went into designing computers and technology and smartphones. But then I think of Alan Turing as well too, like the movie Imitation Game. You've seen Imitation Game?
Yes, beautiful film. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Beautiful film.
Beautiful film.
Yeah, Great guy. I love Benedict Cumberbatch.
Who
Sherlock
doesn't?
too. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I love everything the guy does, right? The guy's fantastic.
Everything the guy does. Yeah, but Alan Turing, like he was the one that was behind the Nazi Enigma breaking the code, but because of his brilliant mind, we can obviously be able to enjoy the computer. He was one of the founding early fathers of the system that we're using right now, and I think most people can miss that.
For sure. There's even, I'm going to butcher this because I think if the actress might have been like Heidi Lamar, like she owned patents that like for Bluetooth technology back with like World War II. And it was like to help like naval ships. She was a Hollywood actress at the time, one of the golden era of Hollywood kind of situations. It was like, you kidding me right now? Bluetooth?
The Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi queen.
Right. Like, you're serious. So that's the type of stuff but those are the kind of conversations I love to have. And that's why me and you clicked so well when it came to our messages back and forth, because when you know that, there's no excuses, right? Because people did things with minimal technology and minimal access at those points in history, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think this dynamic that we're speaking about, Rashad, this history, this learning from generations, this applying this into our lives as entrepreneurs, this is something that I believe has been so lost, like in the digital age. I know it's ironic because we're talking on digital technology right now.
Correct.
But I believe that devices, when on the extreme, used too often, can be a distraction from us even delving into learning about these things. For
sure. Yeah. Sometimes, right. It's like when you order a pizza, right? Like just because you ordered a pizza doesn't mean that the process of making a pizza went any faster. All that meant was you actually had access to order a pizza quicker. They still have to bake it. They still have to put it in the oven. It still has to be cooked at whatever amount of degrees the pizza cooks at. The process of making the pizza still has to have an actual process being made and come out of the oven. But we get beholden to instant gratification because I did it right there. It must be completed already. When in reality, all I did was communicate it quicker to the back end.
Yeah, exactly. If we stay in that dopamine hit of, oh man, I'm gonna stay out here and order and skip the dishes, and I want to order this and I want to order that, but we don't actually enjoy the food, then we're like this squirrel and over the hedge, like it's like,
exactly. You never accomplished anything. So, what places? What type of people call you for your speaking career? What is it? Companies? Is it small businesses? In general, what's your audience that requests your speaking services?
Yeah, speaking services actually is a Swiss Army knife of requests. So it's really everything from individual podcasts like yourself to corporate events as well too, like keynote events, like festivals, spiritual festivals, the spiritual community as well too, as well as within entrepreneurs as well. So entrepreneurial bent, having the spiritual bent, having the understanding dreams more or less like within the dynamic of faith-based audiences as well.
Beautiful.
But it's really like a combination of a lot of different things. In the past as well, like schools as well too, wanting to hear about really more or less learning from A to B on certain principles, dynamics within people who are getting their life back on track, who just need to find their first job. So more or less people who are getting into recovery and from the pace of recovery to actually getting slotted back into the workforce. So it's really a combination of a lot of different elements. And that's what I love about it is just being open to the right person, the right group, the right request, where what I bring and what they bring can kind of cross paths and create this beautiful mixture. Kind of like what's happening today on your show, Rashad.
For sure. Well, it's funny you mentioned exactly, and I appreciate that. It's kind of like, when I thought it was funny you mentioned about schools, because for a long time there was this mode of operation that every kid had to go to college, and there was only one path to actually do. Like I'm sure you and I are close enough in age where it was university, degree, and it was the holy grail of like what everybody had to pursue. But then what you did is you took what was that 25% of kids that needed to have that, and the 75% were useless, or they had no right. Like, and I'm not saying that whatever the case may be. But when you speak to these schools, you can sit back and say, you can be a digital nomad. You can build your own online business. There is an opportunity to be a public speaker. I talked to a classic pianist, right? Like, think about telling your parents that you want to play an instrument for a living and make money, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, they're like, what do you mean? You're going to be like in a loft writing poetry and then begging on the street corner, right? But those are I'm just calling it for what it is,
Yeah. It's right. You're right. It's just like there we can get in this Western mindset of compartmentalizing what should be versus what I say. This is the trichotomous versus the dichotomous battle. Have you ever heard of such a thing before?
I've heard it, but I've never listened to it in detail, so I'll let you explain it.
So the trichotomous worldview versus the dichotomous worldview. We're in the Western culture. You are in Detroit, Michigan, I believe, and I'm in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. We are in North America. We are in the West. And a lot of our audience is in the Western world as well, too. Most of what the Western world has been built upon as far as like a thrust, especially now in the 21st century, is the hustle of mind, will, and emotions, the soul, and really going after the physical goals within your body as well, and getting that mind and that physique. So mind and body, but not necessarily the spiritual or the unseen picture behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Whereas the farther east you go, they are incorporating all three into their DNA of design: spirit, soul, and body, where there's that SeeLink between all three of those elements. Like when I went to the Middle East years ago, I've been to Israel and Palestine. I've sat around dinner tables with Muslims, Christians, and Jews, people of different faiths. And they all have one thing in common, even though they follow a different God or a different creed. And that is they have a high value for the things of the spirit. They'll say, okay, what did you see in your dream last night? What is God speaking to you? Like what's life communicating to you? What's your Clink? What's your gut telling you? More than just what was the political news or what's going on at work, like a deeper seat behind the scenes picture. In the West, I believe we've lost a lot of that founding principle that the founding forefathers built the United States on, was we hold these truths to be self-evident. That's what I believe is what a lot of lost.
And I think the other thing about it is sometimes people don't take that minutes because all they want to do is I owe it to myself to sit and relax, right? I owe it to myself to sit and just not think about it. And I'm not dismissing that, because the body needs rest. Anybody who's worked out knows that if you don't rest, eventually you're going to pay a heavy price because it's going to catch up with you. But in those quiet moments, it's also very important to sit back and say, what's curious? Where's the world around me? Let me watch about this documentary. So I can have an engaging guest like yourself talk about a transatlantic cable line. And, your digital nomad was built upon something greater than you starting your business, and you're successful at it. But knowing about Alan Turing, knowing about, things of that nature, make you realize that as long as I'm looking ahead and not just what's in front of me, but past what's in front of me, that's where the real success lies in. That's where, if you keep chasing something, you'll never be, you're always looking to the next step.
Yeah, exactly. For chasing that moving target, it's like, oh, I'm not satisfied, and not in a good way, in a bad way, where you're like, you get that looking over your shoulder syndrome. Like, as a track and field runners know this, it's like, if you look over your shoulder at the guy that's about to come alongside of you, the woman that's coming alongside of you, you're going to lose your place in the race, and you've lost it. You've already lost it if you're looking at somebody else. You got to stay present, but you got to keep your eye on the finish line, but yet learn from how you started off the block. So it's past, present, and future. And I believe in our culture of extremes that we often live either too far in the past, too far in the present, or too far in the future. But we have to incorporate all three.
It really is. And sometimes you have to fall flat on your face in the same time just to figure out that that's not what you need to do. And that's okay, right? Because
that's right.
It ultimately shapes and molds who you are. Really briefly, where can people find Caleb Matthews?
You can find Caleb Matthews at the SeeLink at calebmatthews.net. So www.calebmatthews.net is obviously where my SeeLink brand is. That's where I'll have links for podcasts such as yourself on there to be able to see, okay, here's where Caleb's spoken on his past podcast. Here's what he's all about. Here are his core values. Here's what he's going to do, what he's coming up with next in his creative pieces and his content. You can find me on Instagram, Caleb on the Runway. That's my hashtag. And then I was a runway model. That's a different conversation.
We'll talk about that soon. I saw that on your Instagram, man. Oh, good, man. But see, that's the unconventional path you talked about, man.
Yeah, for sure. Unconventional. It's like, if your life is that unconventional mystery and that story and that awe, then there's a beautiful tapestry to be woven. And that's the same for Rashad. That's the same for you as you're listening, for you as well. But Caleb on the Runway on Instagram, of course, calebmatthews.net. That's where you can find my SeeLink brand. Via oasis.com. That's where you can find more about my digital nomad business and my pad down there in San Jose del Cabo, Mexico. So if you want to book your spot and stay at my place in San Jose del Cabo, you can contact me there. I'm open for bookings for this upcoming season. And of course, on X, Caleb Matthews, I'm there. My last name without the E. You can find more of my stuff on X. And of course, Facebook, Caleb Matthews as well. But that's where you can find more about me. And the SeeLink at gmail.com. So TheSeelink. The SeeLink at gmail.com is my direct contact information.
It's wonderful. And British Columbia is a beautiful province. I went to Vancouver once. I mean, like it's something out of like a freaking movie, man. Because you're like, holy, it's gorgeous, absolute gorgeous province, man. Holy smokes,
beautiful,
beautiful place. You know, got a chance to go on the Coppolino Suspension Bridge in Vancouver. That was a trip.
Absolutely beautiful spot.
Yeah. Hey, this is Caleb Matthews that I was honored enough to spend time with on the T.R.O.N podcast, the Randomness of Nothing. Nothing but success towards you, brother.
Thank you very much for having me on, Rashad, and thank you and thank your audience. And audience, if you're in this place right now, you're like, okay, I'm not really sure about where to go next, then I would just say find that place that brings you joy. You might be as simple as going and visiting some old folks in their old folks' homes and doing crosswords. It could be creating music for people. It could be just offering a word of encouragement to somebody walking across on the street and just activating that speaking gift that you have. Do these little steps to go towards bigger steps. Start small and then let everything else unravel for you, because the universal law of sowing and reaping is without effect, is non-optional, and will always come back to you. Whatever you put out will come back to you. So thank you for having me on the show.
That is the goodness truth, man. Appreciate the seed you planted. Much success to you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashad. Thank you.